what is compassion? What are some of the limitations we experience with practicing compassion? And how can we truly develop the muscles of compassion? Those are the questions I will be answering in today's episode. This episode is a two-part series. So the first part, I answer these questions. And the second part, I will be guiding you through a beautiful compassion for these series. So let's dive right in. Well, welcome back, you guys. I am Michelle Jacob. I'm the founder of Reviving Minds, author of the book, You Are Enough. I'm on a mission to impact 200 million lives, to come from a place of knowing your true worth, your true value, knowing you are enough. You are valuable and you're here with a divine purpose. So in today's episode, I wanted to share about compassion. Now, what is compassion? To understand what is compassion, let's start off with what compassion is not. Many people think compassion is feeling sorry for somebody, looking down upon someone, sympathizing, empathizing. You know what? None of that is compassion. True compassion is actually a state of openness of the heart where you allow your heart to expand. This unconditional expansion where you see right through the other person, you see deep into them, knowing they're just like you, with their own insecurities, their own hurt, their own pain. That is what unconditional compassion is. Now, see, as humans, our ego takes over. As humans, we are quick to go into the fight and flight mode or the survival mode when we are triggered. So what tends to happen to humans is that, well, there are a few limitations. So the first limitation I want to talk about is when you are compassionate, you are generously giving to somebody and you love this person, when that person suddenly let's say disappoints you somehow, hurts your feelings. Think about what is the first thing that comes into your mind. You're probably going to say, in spite of everything I did for you, this is what you're doing? Catch yourself there. Because when you were giving them the love and the compassion, you were expecting something in return. That is one of our limitations when we go into that survival mode, when we allow the sympathetic tone or the sympathetic part of our nervous system to take over, or the ego, whatever language you want to give it. Now we have another limitation. And this other limitation is we tend to show compassion for the people in our close circle, right? We kind of look at others, oh, they're out there. We don't really pay much attention to the people out there. We're compassionate, we're loving to our circle, right? And that's why sometimes you're watching the news, you see things happening, you're like, oh, it's the people in that country, but you don't see them as they're just like you and I, right? So that's a limitation we have. That's another limitation with practicing compassion. Now, what's the third limitation? Well, the third limitation with practicing compassion is that now let's say you are watching TV and you're seeing all these people suffering, right? And you are seeing one person attacking the other person is really suffering, and you find yourself getting really angry. You find yourself really getting worked up, and you find yourself wanting to protect this person. You find yourself getting angry at the injustice that's going on. Now, what has occurred over there? This person is suffering, and what you have done is you have decided to suffer with them. So it is equivalent to if they fell off the boat and they're drowning, you decided to jump with them, not knowing how to swim, and you decided to drown as well. Now, this is a mistake a lot of people make in our society, and you think that is part of the solution. You are part of the problem, right? So this injustice that's making you angry, if you're not going to come from a place of compassion, you cannot truly find a solution to that injustice. And compassion, true unconditional compassion, requires you to see the person causing the injustice as well as another child of divine. Someone who's causing the suffering because they're suffering themselves. And you can only do that when you have understood yourself, when you have understood your own suffering, when you have gone deep within and understood, those things that you don't share with other people, those things that only you know about yourself, your own insecurities, not feeling loved, not feeling valued, not feeling you're good enough, doing enough. Your fear that someone is rejecting you, someone's going to abandon you, all those fears, all those limiting beliefs that came from your childhood that you're probably not consciously aware of, but they're there in the subconscious. And that's part of what I do with Reviving Minds in my quantum inner healing sessions. So I go deep within the person's true nature, true heart, what is really stopping them, right? And the reality is, each of us, we're very alike. None of us are that different. In the core of all of us, we have these fears of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear that we're not loved, we're not valuable, right? Some of us have one fear a bit more than the other, depending on what your upbringing was, depending on what those initial traumas were. Now with compassion then, you got to be mindful if you want to practice compassion, because let me tell you, it is one of the greatest qualities. If you're out here, if you're in this world to make a true impact on this world, and impact in your own homes, you got to start with knowing how to practice true compassion. And true compassion is unconditional compassion for yourself and for the other person. They did this study where they had a bunch of monks. They showed them clippings of people suffering, and they were asked to empathize with the person. And what they noticed is that when the monks were empathizing with the suffering of the other people, these monks' stress levels increased, stress hormones in their bodies increased. And then what they told with the other set or the other group of monks was to watch the episodes, watch the suffering. But as you're watching the suffering, come from a place of compassion, allow compassion and love to flow out of their hearts. And what they noticed is that the stress levels were not that high. They noticed the monks were energized. There was more oxytocin in their systems. And that is the power of compassion. It reduces the stress levels. If you watch some of my episodes from some of my other videos, when you are in anger, when you are experiencing emotions of anxiety, fear, guilt, any of those negative emotions, your nervous system is affected. You're in the fight and flight. No matter how much you want to help the other person, you're actually drowning with them. So if you want to impact this world, impact your own personal lives, if you want to impact your own relationships, you got to come from a place of compassion. And start with yourself first. I made a video on self-compassion, how to practice self-compassion. Go check out that video. Maybe I'll put a link down below in the comment section so you can have the link to it. Start with yourself. Maybe you're overly critical about yourself. Maybe you're judging yourself. But if you go to the core of you and understand and have compassion for yourself, your own suffering, and give love to that part of you that's hurting, you can see it's not you, it's not just you. Every human being out there, including the ones who are super successful, who you think are super happy based on their IGs and based on their Facebook. No, every human being in the core think they're not enough unless they have done their work, right? But they'll have moments where they slip into that. Every human being in the core wants to be loved, wants to be valued, doesn't want to be judged. That's a human condition. Some of them are consciously aware of it, and some are completely not aware of it. All they're doing is reacting. And let your compassion also not be a state of reaction when someone's being kind to you, loving to you, or when you're seeing someone really suffering. Let compassion not be a state of reaction. Let compassion be your default state. And that is my mission. That is a mission for myself. That is a mission for me to spread as well, my passion to share with you. Because when you step into knowing you are enough, so this is one of those chicken and egg situation, right? Which one comes first? Is transforming my limiting belief and stepping into I am enough and then practicing compassion comes first? Or is it me practicing compassion that I realize that I am enough? they're both intertwined, right? It's a chicken and egg. You don't know which one's first, right? So in my book, I have a whole chapter. So as you know, You Are Enough talks about a 7-step program called Miracle. It's an acronym. The C in Miracle stands for compassion. So if you haven't already checked out the book, or if you are looking for a program that can guide you through the process, enroll into Miracle program. I do group coaching. It is open. The next registrations are actually open for the next cohort. I can post a link down below for that as well. And come join us on this journey. We deep dive into compassion, practicing compassion for self and others, because the reality is, if there is no compassion, there is no stepping into knowing your true value, your true worth, knowing you are enough, because you'll be criticizing yourself, you'll be judging yourself, and guess what? If you're doing that to yourself, you're probably doing it to others, right? So let's stop the autopilot. Let's step into your true power. Step into the powerful being you are. Step into knowing you are enough, you are valuable. Know you are here with a divine purpose. Thank you so much for joining me on part 1 of the compassion series. In part 2, I will be guiding you through a compassion meditation. Compassion meditation, you guys, just giving you a little bit of a review so you get a taste of what's happening, what's coming next week, is us opening up that heart space. Sending down love and compassion to every being on this planet, including the trees, including those raccoons in your backyard, knowing how they're all valuable, they're all precious, right? You're sending love. And part of this sending love is also sending love to your enemies. So ask yourself this week, before you go into compassion meditation, are you ready? Are you ready to practice compassion? Because the reality is, oftentimes you want to be free, you want to step into knowing you are enough, you want to feel the joy, you want to feel the happiness, but ask yourself, are you ready to let go? Because many times we say we are, but then when you sit down and truly ask yourself, many people want to hold on to their resentment. They're not ready to let go. Because holding on to that resentment, you guys, it's just hurting you. It's not hurting the other person. You know, Buddha once said, it's like taking poison and expecting the other person to die, right? So ask yourself this week, after watching this episode, am I ready to let go? Am I ready to forgive? Am I ready to practice compassion for myself and others? Am I ready to step into my power, not feel powerless, not feel chained, not feel depressed, right? Because we're holding on to all that pain. Am I ready? That is a question I invite you to ask yourself this week. Are you ready? Are you ready to practice unconditional love, unconditional kindness, unconditional compassion for yourself and for those around you? Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode, you guys. I will see you again next week. And until then, have a wonderful, wonderful week ahead. Bye for now.